In Minnesota, GM Rick Spielman and head coach Mike Zimmer are out. Spielman was there 16 years. Mike Zimmer was there 8 years. The Wilfs bought the team in 2005. First order of business was to move on from Mike Tice. Then they hired Brad Childress. They tried to set up what they called a triangle of authority between Brad Childress, Rob Brzezinski, who's still there doing the contracts, and Fran Foley, who was the GM for like a week because of some resume scandal that took him down and brought in Rick Spielman, who had been with the Dolphins before that. Spielman has been there the entire time that the Wilfs have owned the team, but for that initial stub when it was Fran Foley as the general manager or whatever the title was. Zimmer's been there 8 years through ups and downs and highs and lows and playoffs every other year except the past two. They were on an every other year postseason track until 2020 and 2021. And now, Shireen, hey, I look at it, I don't know what they're going to do. And this is another group that needs to move to Minnesota, or if you're not going to move to Minnesota and show up every day, you need a VP of football operations who has the passion that an owner should have, who's going to be there every single day, providing the accountability, providing the steady hand, supervising and ensuring and being the owner in the absence of the owner. I still think it's better to have the owner there, but this is the next best thing. They've got a great stadium. They've got impeccable facilities. The Wilfs will spend money. They authorized big money on Kirk Cousins. They'll spend the money. They'll spend up to the cap and beyond, and they finally reached the point where they said enough. And the only encouraging thing so far, the most encouraging thing, we'll see where they go from here. The most encouraging thing is they've reached the point where they've decided that just good enough, something I've harped on for weeks, just good enough is no longer good enough. They said today they want to contend for championships like they used to. And we'll see if they can get there. This is going to be a critical hire, GM and head coach, but there's plenty of reason to be optimistic about what they have there, and we'll see if they can hire people who will come in and get the job done the right way.
Well, and you look at them, Mike, they had 14 games decided by one possession. 8 of those were losses. That's one short of the NFL record. So they do look like they're close to getting over that hump. They were 31st in defense, which, as we know, is Mike Zimmer's specialty. And that was after guaranteeing $46 million in defenders in the offseason. And they just didn't get it done defensively, 24th in points allowed. So they've got to be better on defense, but you would expect, or I would expect them to look toward the offense when they make this hire as opposed to the defense, which they had under Mike Zimmer. And, you know, they gave him 8 years and he had 3 postseason appearances, but they just, again, they got to the championship game one time but couldn't get over that hump.
They've been to the NFC Championship twice since the Wilfs bought the team in 2006. They had the year where Brett Favre fell into their laps, and despite the best efforts of Brad Childress to muck it all up, he eventually did with 12 men in the huddle, and then Brett Favre did what he had to do, thrown across his body for the Tracy Porter interception that prompted our friend Paul Allen to shout, "This is not Detroit, this is the Super Bowl." 2009, 2017, that's it in 15 years, and that's not good enough. It may be just good enough to be on the fringes of the playoffs every year, but the Wilfs have decided just good enough is not good enough, and we'll see what they do. They hold the 12th pick in the draft. They've got Kirk Cousins under contract for 1 more year at a fully guaranteed salary of $35 million. I don't know that they can find somebody who would take on that salary and give them net draft pick compensation. I've seen opinions all over the place. Oh, they'd easily be able to trade. Kirk Cousins, look at his numbers. I don't care about his numbers. What I look at is when the play that's called goes to hell, what does he do? He folds up and crumbles. You can't have that in the NFL because there are going to be plays that go to hell and the walls are going to cave in, and you got to be able to do something when the walls cave in. He has shown a little more this year, a little more athleticism and ability to improvise, but not nearly enough. And good luck getting somebody to take on $35 million fully guaranteed, plus no guarantee for what his contract situation will be beyond this year, and get them to give you stuff. I think that whoever takes that job has to accept the fact that they may have to spend a year with Kirk Cousins and see how it all goes. But even then, I think it's an attractive landing spot because the Wilfs will pay for players. They've got an awesome practice facility that's just a couple of years old, and they've got a great stadium and a great home field advantage and a passionate fan base that just wants that wants to feel like the organization is as committed and passionate about winning as they are.
Yeah, those fans definitely are passionate, Mike, and they do want to win, and I think they deserve a good team, and they haven't had that in a while. One thing they're going to have to do with whoever the GM hire is, they're going to have to clean up that salary cap. I mean, they're already projected to be $7 million over, and we know that's easy. You can move money around. We know all those things, but they're going to have to clean that up a little bit moving forward. And they do have the 12th overall pick this year, so they'll be able to pick some players, but they've got to pick better than they did in this past draft. They did not have a good draft, Mike, and I think they paid for that in some ways this season with not enough young players contributing.
One thing they've done that is very admirable, as their own players develop and perform well, they do reward them. They find a way to keep them around. But that's how they got themselves into a cap mess. You can't keep everybody. There is a point where you have to draw the line. And look, we were talking earlier today, Mike Golick and I, about Rich Bisaccia and what happens with him with the Raiders and should he be the head coach. And Golick said sometimes the answer is staring you right in the face. And he's right. I've come around on Bisaccia. I think what happened last night and what they've been able to accomplish, I think Mark Davis should keep Rich Bisaccia. The Vikings should have done the same thing with Case Keenum. Look at what he did in 2017. 13-3. Yeah. Great. And, you know, they weren't fluky wins. They were convincing wins. They were a solid team. They didn't have Dalvin Cook for most of the season. Sam Bradford got injured early and opened the door for Case Keenum. They had the Minneapolis Miracle. They got within a game of the Super Bowl. And, you know, they could have kept Case Keenum for at least $10 million a year less than Kirk Cousins, but they saw this as their way to dump one guy and go all in with someone else, and that was a disaster. I think that, Shireen, is why Spielman got fired. Because overall, Spielman's done a good job, but they hitched their wagon to Kirk Cousins, and he went to the playoffs one time in 4 years, and he made many, many millions of dollars, and ultimately missed a key game that would have potentially kept their playoff hopes alive because Spielman and Zimmer and no one else in the organization could prevail upon Cousins to get himself vaccinated. I think that's why Spielman's gone, because the Cousins experiment blew up in their faces. All the more reason to think that Cousins will be gone sooner than later.
Yeah, I would think so too, Mike. And you're right. They could have kept Case Keenum, and I was really confused why they didn't do that after what he did that season. You could have kept him on the cheap, and then you could have looked for your future franchise quarterback, whether that was in the draft or signing somebody or however you did that. But that's the move in hindsight that they should have made rather than going out and spending all the money on Kirk Cousins, giving them fully guaranteed contract that just has not worked out well for them.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.